Imagine a room where the walls are made entirely of glass. Everyone can see inside. The government, your neighbors, your parents, every corporation you've ever bought a sneaker from. In this room, you sleep, you cry, you whisper secrets to your friends, and you figure out who you are. But inside that room, you are never, ever alone. For the average American adult, this sounds like a nightmare, a dystopian prison. But for the average American teenager, this is the proposed solution to their problems. We are living through a moral panic. Turn on the news and you see the headlines declaring that social media is killing kids, or that the internet is a playground for predators. Politicians on both sides of the aisle are waving banners of safety. They promise to build walls to keep the monsters out. They promise to scrub the internet clean. It sounds perfect. Who wouldn't want safety? Who wouldn't want to protect a child? But if you actually ask the teenagers, the very people these laws are supposed to save, you hear a different story. They aren't terrified of the chaos of the online world. They are terrified of the silence that comes after the fix. They are scared of the cure. Tonight, we are diving into the invisible war between safety and sovereignty. We are going to uncover why the generation that grew up online fears censorship more than they fear bullies. We will look at the technical impossibility of age verification, the psychological toll of the chilling effect, and the reality that in trying to save the kids, we might just be destroying their only lifeline. To understand this fear, we first have to understand the fundamental disconnect between the people making the laws and the people living under them. For a Gen X lawmaker or boomer parent, the internet is a place. It is a destination. You sit at a desk, you log on, you do a task, and you log off. It is distinct from the real world. If the internet becomes dangerous, the adult solution is simple. Close the door, turn it off, restrict access. But for a Zoomer or Gen Alpha, the internet is not a place. It is a layer of reality. It is the infrastructure of their social existence. It is where they go to school, where they socialize, where they date, and where they access mental health care. Telling a modern teen to log off to stay safe is like telling someone to stop using roads to avoid car accidents. Sure, it solves the risk, but it ends their ability to function in society. This brings us to the concept of sovereignty. In this context, sovereignty means the right to define yourself. For millions of teens, specifically those in marginalized communities or abusive households, the physical world is not safe. The physical world is where they are bullied. The physical world is where they are told to be quiet.
The online world, specifically the anonymous online world, is often the first place a teenager feels real. It is where they can ask questions like, "Why do I feel this way?" or "Is this normal?" without fear of immediate judgment. When legislation proposes sweeping surveillance to protect them, teens don't see a shield. They see a spotlight. They see the removal of the only privacy they have ever known. They prioritize sovereignty because for them, privacy is not about hiding crimes. Privacy is the sandbox where they build their personalities. Let's get into the weeds. The centerpiece of this debate often revolves around bills like the Kids Online Safety Act. The core idea is simple. Platforms should have a duty of care. They must mitigate harmful content. But here is the million-dollar question. Who defines what is harmful? This is where the fear of censorship takes root. In a polarized political climate, harm is subjective. If a state attorney general decides that discussing gender identity causes anxiety and is therefore harmful, they can sue platforms that host that content. If a platform knows they can be sued for billions of dollars if a teenager sees something harmful, What is their logical business response? Do they hire 1 million moderators to carefully review every video? No, that's too expensive. They create blunt, aggressive algorithms that nuke everything. Teens fear that the internet will be sanitized into a corporate version of Disneyland, a place where you can't talk about eating disorders, not even to seek recovery, because the algorithm flags the medical terms. A place where you can't discuss war or racism or police brutality, because it's deemed too distressing for minors. This isn't hypothetical. We've already seen shadow banning on major platforms. Creators who talk about difficult subjects find their reach throttled. Teens know this. They know that when the government says safety, it often results in the erasure of the messy, complex, vital conversations that help them grow up. Now, let's look at the mechanism of control. How do you enforce these laws? How do you keep kids out of the bad parts of the internet? The answer is age verification. On paper, it sounds reasonable. Just show your ID to prove you're 18. But we need to look at this through the eyes of a digital native. This generation grew up watching the Equifax breach. They watched the PlayStation Network hack. They watched their parents' data get sold to advertisers. They know something lawmakers seem to forget. There is no such thing as a database that cannot be hacked.
You are asking them to upload their government ID, their face, and their real address to a social media app just to log in. You are creating a honeypot. You are putting every teenager's identity in one pile and telling the hackers, here it is, come and get it. Teens fear that age verification is the death of anonymity. If every account you make is tied to your government ID, you are never anonymous. You can never explore an interest without it being permanently logged on a ledger that could be leaked. To a teen, a safe internet that requires biometric scanning feels less like a playground and more like a prison yard. There is a legal concept called the chilling effect. It describes what happens when people think they might be punished for speaking, so they just stop speaking altogether. For teens, this is the most immediate danger. If they know their parents are receiving weekly reports of their browsing history, or if they know the platform is monitoring their DMs for keywords, they stop being honest. They don't stop having the problem. They don't stop being depressed. They just go underground. When we ban teens from the public square, we push them into the dark alleys. We push them onto encrypted apps where no moderation exists at all, where the actual predators hide. By trying to make the mainstream internet 100% safe, we inadvertently strip teens of their support networks. The teen who used to go to Reddit to find a community of people dealing with the same chronic illness might find that community banned for medical misinformation risks. The result is isolation. And isolation is the precursor to the very harms, suicide, radicalization, addiction, that we claim we are trying to prevent. So where does this leave us? Are we forced to choose between a Wild West where children are preyed upon and a surveillance state where children are silenced? The teens themselves don't think so. If you listen to youth advocacy groups, they aren't asking for the government to leave them alone completely. They want tools. They want the ability to block harassment easily. They want transparency on how algorithms target them. They want the platforms to be designed less like slot machines and more like libraries. They want safety and sovereignty. They want the power to curate their own experience rather than having a state-mandated experience forced upon them. The internet is the Library of Alexandria for this generation. It is burning with toxicity, yes, but it is also burning with knowledge, connection, and hope. To board up the doors in the name of safety is to lock them out of their own future. We have to trust them. We have to equip them with armor rather than locking them in a padded room. Because a child who learns to navigate the digital world with wisdom and autonomy is safe. A child who is merely censored is just waiting for the moment the blindfold comes off. I want to know what you think. Is the trade-off worth it?
Would you give up your anonymity for a safer internet? And if you are a teen watching this, do you feel heard? Let's talk about it in the comments. Subscribe for more deep dives into the digital age.